Hello, I'm Mike Broadwell. I'm the developer of what's called the Solara crystal fusion light therapy device, which is light through different mixtures of crystals and color. And it's an ancient technique that goes back to thousands of years in the Ayurvedic tradition. And that was basically people putting crystals on different parts of the body while the person was in the noonday sun and let the light energy from the sun carry the information in the crystals into the body. So you may be familiar with things like acupuncture, which we don't even know where it came from. It's thousands of years old, and somebody figured out to map all these meridians and all these channels in the body where energy flows. Well, in the same way, people have figured out different crystals and how they relate to different parts, organs, meridian systems in the body. So all this is ancient knowledge that almost every tradition, you read the Old Testament, the priest would wear crystals in the vestments when they would go in the temple. It was not just for decoration. These people knew a lot more. There's a lot more in these ancient stories than we might be aware of. So the thing with crystals, crystals are based on structure as well as color. And so the thing is, the colors tend to be what they call imperfections in the crystals that are due to different mineral content. So you might see an amethyst, and the color here may not show up real well. It's fairly faint. And this is also using color therapy, so it's not quite the same color as an amethyst, which is typically purple. This is more of a scarlet. But the different ones, I'll put in an emerald here, which is green, which is a bit brighter. And emerald is, again, a different type of gemstone. So there's different structure to it. There's different colors due to the different mineral content. There are things like amethyst, citrine, rose quartz are all forms of quartz with different mineral impurities in them, which cause the different colors. So the Solara gem is a combination of crystals, color, and light like the sun. Not a laser. Some people confuse it with laser. There's a very big difference between sunlight and laser. Laser is like a single frequency that's kind of focused, like a very targeted beam, like you might see in Star Wars or one of these things. The sunlight is diffuse. It's all frequencies. The electromagnetic spectrum come from the sun, but it's very diffuse. It's not focused in any particular area. So it's a very big distinction that we're using sunlight, or in this case, full spectrum light, which is a way to imitate sunlight as best we can. Still much more limited in the scope of the frequencies, but obviously when it's 25 degrees out, it's nice to be able to be inside and get the therapy rather than try to do it in the sun. So crystal fusion light has been around as a technology probably 60, 70 years, I would guess. Mostly in the United Kingdom is where it started being used. And it was just people making, electrical electronic versions of it. And technology has advanced rapidly in the last 70 years. You look at our cell phones now, look at all the things we have. Computers, when I was in high school, computers were just coming out, so the world has changed dramatically. And my background in this started when I ran across the technology in 2011 at a conference on bioenergy with some of the leading bioenergetic experts in the world. And I ran across a company from the UK that had this crystal fusion light, and I was very impressed with it. I lay down and just had them run it on my crown with a sapphire, amethyst, and noisy, crowded trade show. And I just completely relaxed. I didn't care. I could hear people talking. I didn't care. It didn't bother me. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. So I ended up buying one. The owner of the company at the time had some frustrations. He said, we're just not getting traction over here. We're trying to get this out there. And I had been working with summits and promoting energy medicine. So I thought, well, I've got somewhat of an audience. I'll see if I can help out. So I kind of became a rep for him. And unfortunately, he died the next year. His partner took over the company, and I worked with her for several years until some issues came up that were just irreconcilable. It happens in business all the time. So it led me to make my own system. And what I did was I brought the cost down dramatically. I simplified things. And this was right in the time of all the lockdowns and all the craziness in the world. And we didn't know if we were going to get logistics to get what we needed, parts. And so everybody was pretty much up in the air. And I was able to find off-the-shelf components, an off-the-shelf light source that works with just about any type of camera stand, tripod that you might be using for your phone. And so I was able to find a really good light source, actually better than the system I worked with because of the newer technology. And I could focus on the crystal mixtures, the crystals, the color. And yeah, so there's some other stands that allow us to work with people, and we'll demonstrate that in a second. But I was able to create also with a crystal expert of 40 plus years, some special cocktails of raw gemstones that in combination have some very complementary properties. And we also used a color therapy system based on a guy named Dinshaw, which has been around over 100 years, very famous color therapy. So I added a little bit of twist to what was out there. And so it's kind of the combination of the color, the crystals, the light, and the frequency. We actually strobe the light at different brainwave frequencies, alpha, delta usually, maybe theta. And that's just to kind of entrain the body into the right perspective. So for instance, if I have pain in my wrist and I want to work on the wrist, I would strobe the light at a delta frequency because that tells my body, oh, it's sleep time. It's time for you to heal. It's time for you to repair. So very simply, it's a way of combining a lot of natural elements in a very easy to use and simple process. Now, I think the main thing that's the biggest importance is, and we tend to run across this, and there's so many cool things out there. There's a million devices, and it's just this world of biohacking is incredible, all the stuff that's out there. But we tend to approach it as if everybody pretty much knows, like ice cream. We're just trying to sell them this flavor versus that flavor. But everybody knows ice cream. They just want chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. And I think that's not really the right approach because I think most of us don't really understand healing, especially starting out. We tend to look at healing as fixing. Like, my arm hurts, I want to fix it. I want to be able to throw the ball. I want to be able to chase the dog, whatever. And of course, yes, of course we want that. But healing is not fixing. Healing is really about the relationship with you. And I think until we really answer what is healing and how do I heal, it's all about me. How do I heal? How do I bring that forward? We miss so much. We just assume all these things and we just miss the boat. I get asked all the time, well, how does this work? Great question. But yet, is it really? Because I don't know. I will say, well, let's start with what we know. How does sunlight work? Well, that's a big question, right? How does sunlight impact the body in every way possible? But it's a big question. And I think most time we just want a simple answer like, how are you today? I'm good. How are you? How does this work? Yeah, it does this. Okay, it does that. But I think if we flip the question around and say, what is healing and how do I heal? And I thought a lot about this, and that healing is not fixing. Healing is more you. That may sound trite at first, but the more I thought of it, I thought, no, that's to me the perfect answer. You want to be more of you. You're doing this so you can have a better life, better physical health, better emotional health, better mental health, better relationships, better. Everything you do can be more full, more abundant. What did Jesus say? I came that they may have life and life more abundant. Life is about ever growing and expanding. Fixing is about assuming a static state that we want to get back to. So I think first of all, we want to shift that around is how do I get more me? If you have a child, a loved one, a spouse, partner, whatever, you want more of them. If you really love them and they get a new hobby or they learn a new thing and it lights them up, that's delightful. It's like, wow, there's a whole new side of you. I had no idea you're into this. This is so great that I get to see more of you in this way. Same with yourself. You discover a new hobby, a new interest, and it lights you up. And it's like the world just got bigger. This is what healing should be. And this is, I think, the spirit behind biohacking. And it can get lost in maybe what people think of as numbers and tweaking and all this. But let's move beyond that and say, no, it's really all about more of an expansive, open life. The other thing I found is what's the biggest thing that stops us from doing that. And I've been thinking about this a long time too, because I found this is one of the most counterintuitive things to demonstrate for people. I found it at a conference and it was all about energy and people were open to trying it. And I've done a lot of conferences since then. I probably can't even think of how many people. But usually they have 5 minutes between this talk and the next talk, and what can I do in 5 minutes? And it's like, that's not what healing's about. Healing is about rest and recovery and allowing yourself time. So it's very counterintuitive to squeeze it in to some busy schedule. And I know that's kind of the dilemma of the modern world. We want faster, boom, 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 and I get that. But I think that's where this can give you a balance, something like this. And there are probably other things out here, but this one is one that I know very simply. You can do this while you sleep. You can do this while you're otherwise resting or doing something else. But the key thing is how you approach it. Who are you? It's like if you're going to have a weekend getaway with your beloved, you don't want to rush through it and just get it done. That's the last thing you want. You want it to be one of those timeless experiences that just the world is forgotten, all the humdrum and all the busyness of the day, and you're just together in this beautiful setting with each other and forget everything. That's what we want more. That's what life is meant to be, this kind of timelessness, this sense of flow, not punching the clock. I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. And so I think we want to get healing into a place that brings us to this timelessness, this ability to let go of all the rushing around and numbers and punching clocks and doing this. And this is where something like this can be very, very powerful because it's an experience of your inner world. Now, it's great for pain. It's great for any kind of ailment. It gets energy flowing. Pain is usually stuck energy. Blood flow, if it's not moving, you can stimulate it. And one way you can look at this is if you think about your emotions. If you go watch a movie, very sad movie, and the hero dies, and you're crying, it's an amazingly moving movie. Well, what is that response? This is light flashing on the wall, right? It's not real, but it feels just as real as if that person was there, because those emotions are just as real as this real life happening. And that's the same thing with all the memories, not only of our own lives, but of our ancestral memories. Something triggers one, and it triggers an emotion that comes up. And we have these things just going off all the time, and we feel different ways. We pick up the emotions of those around us. Some of us are much more empathetic, and we don't even realize we do this. And so our emotions can be just all over the place and be kind of jammed up, and you can almost visualize our body looking like this. If we can see how our emotions are, we've got all these emotions and we're trying to keep them under control, but we're like this, if you could see us. And then using something like the Solara gem will allow it just to calm down for a little while we're doing it, and then for maybe a few hours after, they're kind of calm and they get more balanced, and then things just start naturally flowing. Things will move, and then after a while we might move back into that pattern. But as we do it repeatedly, all of a sudden this becomes the pattern now. It's not so much this, which seemed normal. We start to say, wait a minute, I feel different. And it may be subtle and it may take a while, but if you can give yourself the time to do it, it's remarkable. It's like shining an inner light on your inner world, because we create the outer world through our inner world. And I know that sounds maybe ho-hum and mumbo-jumbo, but it is really true. If we're angry, then we're going to be amplified. Oh, that guy's in my way. He's too slow. And why is that? But if we're happy, and the world is going to reflect a whole different world. And so that's what we're trying to do with this, is really shine the light on our inner world, bring it back into balance. And I was telling somebody the other day, it's kind of like if you're in a big city with a lot of traffic, certain devices will just like move the car out of the road that's blocking the lane. That's like maybe a more direct way to address pain or address something. This is like if you could put a signal out through everybody's car radio that would chill them out, get them focused on what they're doing. They're not angry, they're not distracted, they're just paying attention more, they're focused, then the traffic would just move better all over town. This is kind of like what we're doing at our energetic emotional level. Yeah, there may be more direct things we need to do for certain ailments or certain conditions, but this can just support it at a very high energetic vibe level. So anyway, hopefully that makes some sense. We'll do some demonstration of how we would use these. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so the basic setup of the Solara gem, crystal fusion light, is we want to start on the crown of the head, and usually with an amethyst. And there's a reason, there's kind of a, people asking, well, which one should I get? Well, there's kind of a pathway. And this is set up where you can start with one, just depends on where your level of interest is, and go from there. But we would always, with number one, want to start on the crown of the head. And so we would, the nice thing about the way this is set up is a rechargeable light, like a cell phone, so there's no wires. And I can program the frequency of the strobing with a cell phone. So it's very, very easy. I don't have to keep the phone on. The Bluetooth just activates the strobing, then I can turn it off, so you don't have to have Bluetooth going full time, just for a very short time to get it going. And again, the strobing is going to entrain. So in this case, I would place this about the length of my hand above her head. And the delta frequency is just asleep. I want her to go kind of pull down out of whatever's going on in the mind and just calm down and relax. And so this is the first treatment. About 20 minutes is ideal. Now you can do this all night long. I actually sleep with one of these on my head all night. And it's incredible. And that's something you may want to work up to. It just, everybody's different. The challenge with this is we tend to live our lives as if we're out here and we're a thing out bumping around in the world. But actually, we're the center of our universe. And each of us experiences the world in a unique way. And what it's taken me a while to kind of understand, because I go to a lot of clinics and I look and I see, sometimes it's hard to get them to really use this properly. And again, it comes down to, are you using it on yourself? So the practitioners I have that use this on themselves, they can understand it. Doesn't mean they can explain it a lot better, because it's like, how do you really explain it? It's an experiential thing. How do you explain your first time you kissed your beloved, or the birth of your first child? You can try to explain it, but no, somebody just has to experience it for themselves. It's never could be explained. It's one of these things in life that we've gotten so used to following procedures and doing what we're taught that we just expect to check off the box and go to the next thing. But that's not living. That can be replaced with AI. That is AI. Your experience of life, your inner world, your direct, more depth that you have in your own personal awareness is really what life is about. And that's what grows life and expansiveness. And so what I really find is that, and there's a certain point where we can move above, am I doing it right? Am I following the procedure? I don't want to get in trouble here. That's kind of what we all get programmed with school and getting the right grades and following the right procedures. And most of life, because we live in this big machine world now, is I just don't want to get in trouble, because usually you can't make a lot of positive things happen. You can only screw up, right? So we don't want to screw up and lose our job and whatever. But when it comes to healing work, when it comes to self-awareness, when it comes to being better, we have to find this point of courage to have our own experience with something. And that is a powerful linkage in our lives when we go from doing what everybody tells us and following the right procedure to, this is what I experienced for me. So that's a very different situation. And I see that in a lot of clinics. The employees are not at that level where they're really, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a stage of life. So yeah, what I've seen is a lot of people maybe start out and they're really just want to follow the procedures because they're busy, they got a lot going on. And it's just the way life is. I understand that. But it really comes down to, if you're working with someone, with something like this, your belief is a big part of it. The fact that you know it works, that it does something because you've experienced it directly, will completely shift the energy with which you share it with somebody else. And if it's just, well, I pushed all the buttons and, which is what the medical system really is, and that's understandable. The medical system is taking care of people who don't want self-responsibility, right? That's why you're here. So how else could you do it? We follow all the procedures. We can't control whether they eat like we tell them or do whatever. We did our job, and that's understandable. But this is something higher. This is about self-awareness, self-discovery. And so reach that point where it's okay to have your own experience, and you may not experience it like anybody else. I get asked all the time, I ask people, well, what did you notice? Or how do you feel? What am I supposed to feel? Right? You're you feel what you feel. It may come at a different time for somebody. It may come slowly. Some people don't necessarily notice things as quickly. Now, usually when I'm working with people, I'm dealing, most of the time they have some sort of pain. And so that's very easy to show that that will shift. But the deeper thing is what's below that pain. And that's, again, that energy blockage, that energy not flowing the way we want. So what I want to do is really start on the crown, because this gets the mind to let go of all those thoughts and all those things racing around. I had a lady years ago, I ran a system on, and she got up, she said, this allowed my mind to get out of the way so my body could experience what it needed. I thought, that's such a beautiful, simple way of explaining it. This just took her mind out of the way. Get those thoughts, because thoughts are just mechanical. We're not our thoughts, we're not our mind. And by the time we think of something, it's already happened. Life never happens here. Life happens at the energetic, emotional level. This is trying to figure it all out, and it's great. We need to do that. But when we think we're running life through this, we're missing everything. We're not in, you can't be in the flow and be thinking through things at the same time. It's when you play tennis or a sport, you can't be thinking about your technique in the middle of the match, or you're going to get wiped out. You just play. Life is meant to be lived in the flow. We reflect on it, and that's when this should come in. When this has to be the gatekeeper, that's okay. It's just showing us we're not really to this point of letting go and letting life, experiencing life. We're still trying to control it. And so this is a great way to allow that to happen. Now, the other thing that's really nice is that there are different stands and things that can allow us to easily position these around the body. And so this is just another little tripod with a little camera attachment that allows me. And so another really nice area to work on is on the heart. And we typically would use something like a rose quartz. And like I say, I would just turn on the light. I can turn on my phone, and I can start the light strobing. And I can do more than these at once. It just depends. Or I can, oops, put that against the table there. So this I'm kind of just going to shine over the high heart. And yeah, that's a close-up of a Solara gem there. So with this one, I can now have the heart and the crown. I could do these sequentially. I can do them together. And with something like the emerald, or here, I'll take this one, thank you. So something like the emerald I would use on an area where there's maybe some chronic pain or acute pain, more with emerald. Now, typically the third thing I would do is work on the spleen. The spleen is your energetic center of the body. It's your immune system. And it's an area that is where the just immune health, immune system boost. And so I could do that. I could also use this on the vagus nerve. And what I would do is actually run the frequency up. Let me make sure I got the right frequency here. That's the wrong one. So the app, I can run multiple lights at the same time, and sometimes it's, there we go. So now you can see I'm strobing this one at a faster pace. And what I'll do for a moment here is I'm just going to just put this kind of on the vagus nerve, which is right on below the left ear. This combination together is extremely powerful in that I can bring somebody down out of panic attacks, anxiety. I've seen that happen in clinics, and because I'm stimulating the vagus, which will bring up the parasympathetic and bring down the anxiety levels, working on the heart and the crown together. So this is a very, very effective way to do that. So you can see there's heart, head at the lower frequency, and then the vagus nerve at the high frequency. And then the next thing I would do is, like say, work on the spleen energy, which is your spleen is below the bottom 3 ribs. It's your blood filter. It's what creates white blood cells. It's what regulates the serotonin levels. And especially with all the stuff going on in the world that people are freaked out about the last few years, the immune boost of working with the spleen is remarkable. It can just really help push people out of, kind of this rundown state that a lot of people find themselves in. And this is a great supportive therapy. I could be doing this along with sound therapy. If you have a sound bed, or you're doing biofield tuning or tuning forks, working on somebody, any kind of sound therapy with the light crystal therapy is magnificent together. It could be done, if you do this ideally before a massage. Right before you do the massage, your body will relax. You'll get a better massage. Your massage therapist will get a better massage, better adjustments. It's just everything is going to work better when things relax and let go. And you'll actually see the person, I think you kind of saw her there, but you'll see them kind of shift down into more of a theta state, more of a lot of times I'll notice them, like they'll be laying there and wiggling around a few minutes, and all of a sudden, you just see them drop down into a state change. And and I do this every day. I do at least my crown and my spleen pretty much every day, if at all possible. Usually I sleep with this, do the spleen in the morning. Try to do the heart a lot of times. Sometimes I'll do them both together. And the states of bliss that often I'll wake up in, especially if I do the crown, maybe I'll wake up early in the morning and I'll shift it to the heart, and I'll go back to sleep, and I'll just be in this blissed out state. I don't want to wake up sometimes. It's so cool. But again, it's just something you have to experience. But it's gotten to where I look forward to going to bed because, wow, I get to do this, and this is so cool. And I travel a lot, and yet my sleep has never been better because this helps so much with sleep. So if you've definitely got sleep issues, that's a primary one. There is some special ones focused on sleep, but the amethyst is great for that too. Amethyst is great for chronic pain as well as this for gut health. So I always start people with amethyst. Usually the second one is the carnelian, which I have on the vagus nerve, because that's good for the spleen. It's good for the prostate. It's good for anywhere you want blood flow. It's good for like clearing your sinuses, clearing your lungs if you've got congestion. There's quite a few of these, and you can get more and more refined, but just doing the 3 or 4 basic ones will give you almost everything you need for just good general health.
Do they have to be shining directly on skin, or can they go through clothes?
Good question. Yeah, it's ideal to go on bare skin. Now the energy will still go through clothing if you have to, but if you're in the comfort of home, ideally bare skin. There are ways you can rig up little boxes and keep covers over you, but still keep the bare skin. But yeah, the more directly on the skin, the better. But we're working on the energetic field, so if all you can do is shine it through the clothing, it's still going to have some benefit. And but yeah, it's it's really something that's pretty that simple. It's pretty much just, we try to make things too complicated, but if you start with this, and then you'll grow as you get more of a sense and more of an intuitive feel for it. Um, it's definitely worth doing.
And working on the energetic field, like how do you have a sense of how far that extends from the body? So you're working on that extended field as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're just in the field. I've got people that just run these on themselves all day at their desk when they're working. One of my best practitioners is a tax accountant, and she like shines it on her tax clients while they're working. She goes, they're happy even though they're losing thousands of dollars to the government. They're still happy, It's like pretty wild, And it's just the more you become aware of it, the more you can sense. It just shifts the energy. I can just run it in the room. I was in Austin a few months ago doing a little training, and next door this lady was doing some sort of class on romance or something, and I said, "Here, you want to just run this in the room?" And after, because I gave her a rose quartz, she just had it in the room while she was teaching her class. It was different. It definitely we could feel the positive energy of it just in the room. So it's great for yoga classes. Anywhere you have people together, it just helps to bring the energy up.
Mike, is there a way that you clear the energy after a use, or of the crystal?
Well, these are designed to be self-clearing. Some of the stones in here actually are designed to clear, but also the light. A lot of times the way you clear crystals is put them in sunlight. So the fact that these are running basically with light through them, they're self-clearing. So that's a good question. Yeah, they're designed to be self-clearing, and they're really a really good support if you do therapy on people, because energy therapists tend to run energy and move energy with people, but a lot of them take on the client's energy, and then they're drained at the end of the day. Whereas this will provide the energy and they can just direct it. And that's been a big shift I've heard from a lot of the practitioners that are using it. It's you don't, because if you take on energy and let people drain your energy, you're going to get sick. Um, you're going to get down, and it's going to have a lot of problems in the long run. So this is just such a good, simple and positive, natural way to boost things up.
Do you want to, Heidi, say anything about what you're doing with the microphone? We're at 30 minutes.
Okay.
Here, you want to put that on somewhere?
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you notice? What have we done? Maybe 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Should I look at the camera? I felt like you guys saw me take that breath, and my whole lungs like expanded and diaphragm, and then I just like settled down, especially when you started with the vagus nerve carnelian. That was impactful, I think. I feel like a sense of warmth through my body, and we live in the north and the cold, and it feels like, I don't know, I guess in my mind, like I would pair this. I love to meditate and do like hypnosis meditations and breath work. I would love to try this out while I'm doing some of those modalities. And then I just feel like a sense of calm, like, and I felt it run through like my whole body. It feels like it's oscillating like from crown to toe, which is interesting. And I've had a couple experiences before with it, but this time I think also because I have a deeper understanding of the technology, that it feels different every time. It's felt different though. So I mean, and I'm pretty sensitive, and I'm also around a lot of fluorescent light, so I would probably emit that, if I was doing this technology, and then really experience the sunshine, right? Like
Right.
that's the it's like the sunshine, and it's a very cloudy, wintry day, so it feels, yeah, the inner warmth I think is like the nicest, the nicest part. Thank
Okay, so yeah, if you're interested in the Solara gym, you'll see a link below where you can explore more. Again, I talk about you would always want to start on the crown. So people, where do I start? Start with an amethyst, because what I found with when I developed this system, the system I sold before worked great, but it was almost $6,000, and it came with 3 gym mixtures, and that was a big investment. And I found that people didn't really grasp it. The best way I would get them at a conference was they would come in sick. Like they'd fly in from Wisconsin to Florida, and they're like, "Oh, I had a cold. I feel terrible. Sit down," And so they sit down for 20 minutes, and they get up and like, "Oh, I feel amazing." And they would like, I'm going to get this." But that's, hard to rely on because, again, it was tough to catch them in these conferences in a short time. So I wanted a way people could get a taste, and something like this. The beautiful thing is this will last forever. It's made like a rock. The lights you can buy directly on Amazon. You don't have to buy them from me. They're like $90, and sometimes they're even cheaper on Black Friday or whatever. And it works with any kind of little stand. That's like a $20 stand there, maybe $30, $40 at most. And this part will last forever unless you really actively try to destroy it. The lights, maybe they're good for a couple of years. You get another one. So this is not something you're going to break. You have to worry about. And you can use it for the whole family, for the pets, I use it on my animals. I got vets using it. You can use it anytime you feel just drained or you feel like your head's not screwed in right. So it's great from that standpoint. Again, there's kind of a pathway we'll take you. The second one I would do is the carnelian because I want to boost the energy system, boost the immune system, boost the vagus nerve like we're doing. We could show the spleen maybe real quick if you're okay with that. So in your spleen, if you're okay, just pull your shirt up to like the bra line on the left. Pardon my hand. And so I would put it about like that, and then you can put your arm down. And I'll just run it kind of over. And so this is kind of step number 2 to work on the spleen. And this is just a great pick-me-up. You do this in the morning. So this step, and then the rose quartz just adds this kind of, especially if you're going through emotional times, suffering a loss, a breakup, a loved one dying, or just any kind of emotional upset. But it's also great for lungs, for your skin. There's so many ways you can use these. And the next one would probably be the emerald, which is good for acute pain, burns, inflammation. It's good for calming the liver. And so it's something that you can start with, get used to, just experiencing, and then just grow with it as it makes sense to you. We met at a conference, 2 or 3 years ago now, in Paleo Effects down in Austin, Texas. And we happened to be next to each other, and we hit it off right away. And it turned out I have a relative that had lived in this area. And so it's great that we have this connection since she just moved back up here, and I was up here helping her, and it all worked out to be together again. And so it's just a great community that we kind of build around the country. I've been fortunate that I work with really the best people on earth. I mean, I travel around, I get to meet, because I find that the people that really grasp this are the ones that are the most sensitive, the most aware, the most tuned in. And so I get some of the cream of the cream that are working with this. And I get amazing stories from them because I'm not working with people day by day. I'm usually just demonstrating it, but I've got people doing amazing things. And I've worked with some pretty well-known doctors that you would know and had some pretty amazing feedback from them as well, and what happens, emotional things, that shifts that happen. So yeah, I love what you're doing with this program because we've all got to take control of our lives and our health. And I think everybody out there, we say, well, this other system's against us. No, I think the other system's just lost. It's just people have become, there's no curiosity. There's no, it's just like, okay, I got to do this. And, I think these people will come alive when you walk in and you challenge a doctor. Maybe you need to go see a medical doctor, but you challenge them and you say, hey, I'm doing this. No, what can you do? Like, give them a challenge. Spark that curiosity that got them going. And we're seeing more and more doctors and people moving into this. And I've had doctors that kind of were not sure this was much, and then they go through an experience and they're like, wow, there's way more to this. And so it's all about exploring and expanding, and that's what we're at in the world. So yeah, I encourage you to explore, you're free to contact me with questions. I'm happy to support you. And we have people all around. If you want to try it, I can try to find you somebody, depending on where you're at. I may have somebody that's available to give you a session. But anyway, yeah, thank you for your time and interest in this.